So just last week, I was on a roll, man. We were happier than ever, where things could not be better. We got to Diamond 3 on this massive winning streak where we actually carried ourselves all the way up to Diamond 3 70 LP. So we were just 2 wins away from our promos to Diamond 2. And Diamond 2 is where you get to say that you're like a real person in League of Legends. But then this happened, the worst losing streak that I've had in all of 2017. This just devastated me. I was heartbroken. Each one of these games was worse than the last. Nothing was fun or enjoyable about any of them, and there were virtually no positives to take away from the matches. It demoted me all the way back down to Diamond 4, and then took me all the way down to 0 LP, where we almost got demoted again. So naturally, my instinct was to go buy a gun and stick the barrel in my mouth. But rather than do that, I figured it may be a little smarter to maybe try and make a video out of the situation or something and share my embarrassing misery. I don't know. It's my job. I guess at the end of the day, nothing makes you want to kill yourself more than a double-digit losing streak in League of Legends, and we've got a lot of losses here. So let's go through each and every single one of these games, all the mistakes, and try and analyze what went wrong and how this ended up happening. We've got a lot to go through, so let's go ahead and cut the intro short, get into game number 1. For our first game here, we got autofilled onto jungle, which is a little bit frustrating, but it's not the end of the world. I'm getting a little better with Zach. I'm getting a little more knowledgeable about the jungle and starting to win some games when I get autofilled. It's probably my most comfortable role to get autofilled onto, so I'm getting excited, ready to play this game. And oh, Caitlyn just stole my blue buff. Okay, a little bit of a handicap, but we can handle this. This game in particular, I was already really nervous since if you see on the enemy top lane, they have Cali Trolls, who was the former top laner for Team 8, who played in the LCS and only barely got relegated. We were playing against an former LCS top lane, so I was a little bit nervous about having to carry this game, but I do my best to stay motivated. The Jace ends up going bot lane and picking up an early double kill on our team, but then we respond very quickly by going mid lane, getting a kill on their Warwick, and then getting a kill on the Jace, shutting him down, which he's a little bit scary. But then we proceed to head bot lane and try and do everything for our team. We go bot to try and set up for a gank, make sure our bot lane doesn't get set too far behind from that early Jace gank. We're doing our best to try and just play our hearts out and make sure that everything that we can possibly be doing for our team, we're doing, despite the fact that I wasn't really able to gank too much early on because of the early blue buff steal. However, this was a game where our teammates would constantly get caught out. They would constantly get caught out from Jace's roam. The Warwick jungle on the enemy team is a duo with this Jace, and they would always be all over the map. I would always go in trying to save my teammates too, which is not a good idea. I would end up dying and throwing whatever lead I had. We would try and get our kills and do everything that we could for the team, but the enemy team was just one step ahead of us. Cali Trolls played phenomenally well, and he did a great job top lane. Our bot lane ended up really getting caught out quite a bit as well. They ended with a score of, I think Caitlyn was 1-9 by the end of the match, which isn't to try and pin anything on my team, but for reference, I ended this game like 3-4-6. I don't want to say that I played the best on the team, but I was one of the better players this game, and it's kind of a sad state of affairs when the autofilled player is the player that's playing best on your team. So naturally, this loss there isn't too much to say about this. I don't know if there were that many mistakes that we made. I'm sure a jungle main could point out mistakes that I had this game, but at the end of the day, I don't think we should be too hard on ourselves for this loss. We try and not lose our head, though. We get into game number 2. We have that autofill protection, so we get to play Aurelia top lane. We are up against a tank Fizz, which is one of the most annoying things you can play against top lane at the moment, but we're still ready. We're still ready to go. We have our Graves come top lane and have our jungler gank, which I'm super grateful for. This Graves does a phenomenal job going aggressive and getting an early kill on this Fizz. It's not a first blood, barely, but he ends up getting an early kill. He does end up dying for it, but at least he ends up taking the Fizz's ignite away from him. That sets me up to go and get a kill for myself, where even though I'm technically behind in gold, I'm still Aurelia. I can 1v1 the Fizz. I only end up dying because the Warwick comes top lane to gank, but okay, a gank for a gank. Everything seems pretty even, and the game is kicking off on a pretty good note. Then, my team does the weirdest thing, where they send like 3 people into their jungle, and I'm not too sure what they were doing, the Ahri, the Blitzcrank, and the Graves here, but Fizz ends up having the best goddamn TP I've ever seen in my life. He gets a kill on the blitzcrank. Then he baits my team into diving past their second turret, where the Thresh then lands an amazing hook on Ari. They end up also killing the Graves there, and I don't even know what they got for that trade. And suddenly I start getting really nervous. I'm also streaming this game too, so I'm a little bit distracted, and I end up having some technical flubs here and there where I'm not playing perfectly, and then the enemy team starts really sending a lot of pressure top lane. Fizz comes top lane with the Warwick, where they end up diving me here, and again, this is a situation where I end up going 1-for-1 here, so I feel like I'm not playing that badly. I'm not making that many terrible mistakes. It's not like I'm letting this Fizz solo kill me over and over, but you can see I ended up wasting a flash there, and then I end up not paying too much attention to the minimap, more attention to Twitch chat than the minimap, and then they end up sending the Warwick, Thresh, and Fizz all top lane to kill me here, and this is where things are starting to unravel a little bit, but I can rest easy in that I'm not making too many obvious mistakes. This game shouldn't be super tilting or anything, because it's not like I just got outplayed super hard and fed my ass off and went 1-10. I still put up a real fight and tried to make the best of every bad situation. There were still mistakes, particularly map awareness mistakes, but we could also attribute that to the fact that I was streaming. I didn't want to get too upset over this loss, and okay, we lose 2 games in a row. It's not that bad. Game number 3 is where everything starts falling apart. Okay, so the game starts off with me getting Malphite down low in laning phase. Elise comes top lane and lets us get a kill on him, but then I do the stupidest thing I've done in a while. I'm starting to get a little bit jittery and go forward, trying to get an assist or guarantee I get an assist. I don't know what I was thinking here. I end up losing flash and dying. Then, okay, I'm still doing well in laning phase. You can see my CS lead on Malphite is massive at this point in the game, but that means it's Warwick's cue to come top lane and start camping the hell out of me. He starts coming top lane, and in hindsight, I definitely should have left lane by the time I got the tower, but I'm an idiot and end up dying over and over. Eventually, I get the message and I start grouping to team fight, but I'm starting to get really nervous and jittery, and so I misplay in team fights and end up not doing too much for my team. So then I respond by saying, okay, let's go bot lane and split push bot lane a little bit. But then Warwick says, no, you're not getting away from me that easily, dude. He comes bot lane and helps kill me again with Malphite, and I have a pretty abysmal score at this point. There are a few highlights of this game where I'm still able to bring things back a little bit. It's not a completely lost cause, and honestly, that's what really set off the tilt, and that's why I think this game in particular really started making me frustrated. If you take a look at our team scores, you can see by the end of the match, this Tyler 1 player did end up playing about as poorly as I did, but I was definitely the reason that we lost that game. Or maybe a better way to put it would be, I could have been the turning point. Like, if I just played well, if I played normally, if I played half decently, then we would have won this game, but I didn't. I played badly. I made all of these mistakes, all of these terrible map awareness problems, and this and that. I was single-handedly a deciding factor that, I ended up losing this game entirely of my own accord. I didn't really have anyone else to blame. And there is no feeling worse in League of Legends than knowing that you are bad and you're the reason that everything went to shit. I don't give up though. I queue up again for game number 4, although this is one where frustration has now settled in and I start playing worse and worse. I'm playing against a Kled who is already a very annoying top laner to deal with, but this Kled in particular took Ignite, and I, in my blind rage, didn't realize that. I end up getting killed by him, and then come back to lane thinking, oh, I can still outplay him, but I, of course, misjudge his passive, and when his passive is coming up, and then this is the kind of lane where the snowball just keeps on going. Maybe I start to turn things around a little bit with a little bit of a fight and dodging skill shots and everything, so I get ready to go in and try and pick up the kill, but nope, of course not. Evelyn's here top lane, and okay, that puts an end to that. I mean, this Kled, his entire strategy seems to have been built around trying to get that early kill, taking the Ignite, and then if he gets it, he gets to snowball and just completely win the game. I can't even CS or do anything. If I try and CS, I just end up getting myself killed. That's the kind of strategy that this guy is set out for, and it works perfectly just because he ran into the most tilted top laner in all of NA at the moment. If the last game didn't entirely break me, break my spirit and my hope, this is the game that did. And this is a good example of what happens when you go on losing streaks. If you've noticed, up until this point of the video, I did not die 1 versus 1 against anybody. I did not have a massive mistake or a game of feeding where I would just get solo killed over and over and over. This is the first game where that's happening, and this Kled is making me feel terrible about it with all the BMing that he's doing, obviously. But we haven't had any severe, like, glaring errors that are obvious to point out, and I feel like maybe I should have won one of these games because of that. You know, these games are, maybe I should have lost all of them. You know, that's the sort of thing that's going through my head, but this is a game where it's like it's all being proven true, that I am a terrible player, that of course I'm losing all these games, because look how hard I'm losing this one. This frustration builds up and builds up, and this game, all this BM, everything that swirls into this terrible match just puts me over the edge, and I end up, of course, losing to a top laner that's incredibly snowbally, and I am at peak capacity for tilt at the moment. My stubbornness to continue playing continues, and we queue up to play against yet another Kled top lane, where this time I'm super motivated. I'm like, this is gonna be different. He doesn't have Ignite. He can't solo kill me. We can outplay him this time and get him. And of course, we make the exact same mistake that we made last game, misjudging our damage and his passive and everything, and he ends up killing us. We still, even through all of this, stay motivated and want to look for yet another kill where we actually have a perfect opportunity to finally get a kill and have something go our way. But then, of course, his jungle comes up top lane and just saving him, bailing him out. This is also a game where our jungler doesn't come up top lane too much to help me out, which I don't want to complain about that much, because it's not our jungler's job to make sure that I don't suck. I mean, that's never the jungle's job, so I don't mean to complain about that. But there have been so many games today where the enemy jungle just constantly comes top lane and bails out these top laners that are making all these mistakes. They make all these mistakes, but I can never punish them because they just get bailed out like the banks or Wall Street in 2008 or some shit. That's got to be one of the most frustrating things, really, is that when you're outplaying someone top lane and normally you would stomp a lane, but you just end up getting crushed because it's not a 1v1, it's a 2v1. But naturally, this game, we actually do bring it back a little bit and have some good moments of not playing too poorly, but the Poppy keeps on coming top lane. We keep on getting wrecked, and the enemy team, to their credit, they do a great job in closing this game out. They win all the other lanes as well, and maybe we would have lost this anyway, even if we ended up winning our lane. Whatever. It's actually kind of hilarious how bad my luck is in this series of games, which isn't to say that the gameplay I'm getting unlucky or complaining about RNG or anything. This isn't Hearthstone, but just the top laners that I've been playing against have been the most frustrating top laners to deal with. You know, Tank, Fizz, Kled, and this game, that theme continues where we play against an Ignite Teemo, which, if the Ignite Teemo wasn't already frustrating enough, he also has a Vi that spends a lot of time camping top lane for him because his lane wasn't going to be easy enough already. Ironically, this is actually the game that we maybe play our best in, where even though Teemo gets first blood and a pretty massive gold lead from that first blood, we're able to go and pick off a kill at him, making a relatively smart decision for how tilted we are, making sure that we find a really good opening, just waiting for a prime opportunity. And then, you know, when you tilt, you make bad decisions because you're playing impulsively and not thoughtfully, but we actually play really thoughtfully, and then of course end up BMing Teemo when we kill him, because you gotta BM here. I mean, I'm so tilted. I gotta BM a Teemo. The game goes onwards with Vi continuously coming top lane to help out Teemo, but for once, it doesn't actually save him. I'm still able to punish this Teemo's overaggression and his mistakes, where he still ends up dying, getting himself killed, and to our Kha'Zix's credit, he comes top lane to help me every once in a while to finish off kills that we otherwise may not have gotten. The way that we threw this game was through the mid and late game. In this game in particular, we go really ham, and to our credit, it works out in the mid game. We start really picking off some kills where maybe we're a bit too aggressive in going for kills that we really shouldn't be going for, where, you know, the best case scenario is going to be me getting a 1-for-1 trade or like one kill and maybe barely living 10% of the time. We don't really make good decisions in that regard, but we're still, for the most part, not making the worst decisions that, you know, we're not playing as badly as you'll see later on. There's even a moment where we end up taking 2 inhibitors from the enemy team, and I think the minions also kill their Nexus turrets at some point. Like, this game was going really well for us. I don't even know how we threw this one, but I think the enemy team just ended up scaling so well. They had a Karthus on their team that did a phenomenal job getting a ton of damage out. Everyone on their team played played so well in the late game, including the Teemo. Props to him for being much more useful than I feel like I was making him. They just end up outplaying us in team fights, and this loss is a really salty one for me. This is one that's hard to swallow. Game number 7 is more of game number 6, where we actually end up having a pretty easy lane where this Riven player, for the most part, against the average Riven, I can do very well in lane when playing Aurelia. She's a really fun person to kill over and over, but just when I start doing well, just like game number 6, the enemy jungle comes top lane. Somebody forgot to ban Ivern, so we end up paying the price for it, certainly. Still, like the last game, I play uncharacteristically well for how tilted I am, and end up making some really smart snap decisions, getting some kills, and still punishing the Riven for the mistakes that she makes, but it really doesn't end up being enough, and if I have to admit it, at the end of the day, this Riven really outplayed me in making one really weird play that just won her team the game. It happened somewhere in the mid to late game where she's splitting bot lane, I'm splitting bot lane, we're both splitting bot to take towers, and then she goes, loses vision, and then TPs to a really weird ward far back. Then she makes sure that there's no vision on her while she goes to flank my team, no vision from minions. Meanwhile, I'm in the bottom jungle running around trying to see where Riven ran off to. She ran off to kill my entire team. I think my team was like overstaying an extension that they shouldn't be, and they got pretty low from trying to take that inner tower. Riven ends up getting a triple kill where she also finishes off that Zillion, which this just ended up swinging the game entirely in their favor. We don't have any vision of Baron, and they just killed 4 of my teammates, where I do have teleport, but that's not going to be enough to stop the Baron, where they go take Baron and then just close out the match. Seriously, Riven, even if I beat you in laning phase, that was the best play that I've seen a top laner make in mid to low diamond. The last 2 games in this losing streak were by far the worst of them all, where this game, game number 8, I tried to pick Kled with Ignite like that previous Kled did. This is something that you should never do, for the record. Never stray from your strategy. If you aren't winning on your main, then you aren't going to be able to win with a champion that you are substantially less knowledgeable with and someone that you don't know how to play. I mean, I've never taken Kled with Ignite. I have been playing a lot of Kled recently, but I've never tried taking him with Ignite with that strategy that the previous Kled did, and I just end up paying the price for it. I'm playing against a Darius that is so tanky for some reason. I don't know why I'm not damaging him, because I don't play Kled. I end up giving first blood, and then it's just kill after kill after kill after kill from there onwards. This game might actually be the worst of the 10-game series, where it was so frustrating. Not only did I play badly and just feed my ass off, there's a point where I was like 0-7-1, I think. Not only did I play so terribly, but it was all isolated. Like, not only was I not getting ganks or anything, but the Darius wasn't getting any help either. I was just getting straight up beat 1v1. He just outplayed me in every way, shape possible. Of course, I'm tilted as hell, and I'm playing goddamn Kled. Game number 9 is actually maybe the funniest game of all these series, where it starts off with Vi coming top lane at level 3 to gank me, and you can see she's just sitting on a ward. I have that warded, so I'm thinking to myself, hey, I should probably not like run away directly so she can just sit in this ward forever and then waste a bunch of time and not get a kill. But I forget Camille's range, and I forget that Vi can flash Q me, and then she does, and then I die, and I get first blood. This game, though, I am up against a Camille, and for those of you who don't know, all of the constant nerfs that Riot's been giving Camille to try and balance her out, like, they're mostly nerfs to her damage and stuff like that at this point, so I can 1v1 her, and I'm really going to be able to 1v1 her all the time this game, being someone that's good at 1v1s, up against Camille, who's very bad at 1v1s right now. The only way she doesn't get killed by me is if Vi spends the entire game top lane, and guess what? She does exactly that. These last 2 games really were the lowest of the low. The kinds of games that you can't even pretend that it was maybe your teammates getting caught out or throwing or playing weird in team fights mid and late game. You can't even shift any of the blame. It's all on you. You got smashed in laning phase. But believe it or not, there really is a light at the end of the tunnel. This last game, it started off just as bad as all the others with even more jungle camp, but the 10th game here is the one I needed to play to break this losing streak. This time I was able to handle handle the camp a little bit and for once still get some kills on the enemy top laner. And they weren't just nonsense kills that didn't even matter. They mattered this time. My team did a great job of taking advantage of the Zac just spending his entire time top lane, winning their own lanes and taking dragons and whatnot. It did take some getting carried, I will admit, by a fantastic team here to finally snap this losing streak. But I did, and now we're back on the upswing. At the time of making this video, we're currently in our promos back up to Diamond 3 with a 1-0 win-loss score already. Just need to win one more game, but oh god, even if we got back to Diamond 3, this was a frustrating past couple of days. Looking back on these games, I'd probably say that it's kind of understandable how someone would get tilted off of this specific number of games, playing this specific role against these specific frustrating champions. And I think that's what losing streaks are in League of Legends, where you just get unlucky, not necessarily with bad teammates, but unlucky in the jungle camp or unlucky in the frustrating lane opponents and things that just don't go your way with the matchmaking or the kinds of players that you play against. The BM and everything sets you on tilt, and you know, playing against annoying laners will set you on tilt if you're not careful about it, which I clearly was not. I kept on playing games. Almost all these games were played within like a 24-hour span, I think. Anyway, though, in summary, League of Legends can be frustrating, ranked sucks, and don't play it. Thank you very much for watching. Good luck in solo queue. Have a wonderful day.